Hello, welcome back to another Craig and Dave Unscripted. Thank you for returning again. So we've got a series of 3 videos today in the next couple of weeks where we're going to be chatting to author, he actually has many hats, but we'll get to that in a minute, author Alan Harrison. So we're going to bring him in at the moment. Hello, Alan. Alan. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself in just a moment. But yeah, one of the main reasons we brought Alan on is to tell us about his new book, How to Teach Computer Science, Parable, Practice and Pedagogy. Now, so I tell you what, Dave accused me of making this intro too long, so I'm going to shut up. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Alan. Who are you? And obviously, we know you obviously wear many hats. You're not just an author. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Craig. Yes. And hi, Dave. Yeah, good to be on here. I've been enjoying this series of videos, so it's great to actually get on. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, I'm Alan Harrison. I'm a teacher in a school in South Manchester called William Humes Grammar School. So first of all, hi to the kids, particularly 10C. Hi, I did say.
There's so shout out.
Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to name any of them because they'll feel left out if I don't name all of them. So hi to 10C, soon to be 11C. I did say, didn't I, that I would do a collab with Craig and Dave, and you didn't believe me, but here I am. Yes, get that out of the way first. Yeah, so William Humes Grammar School. In South Manchester, and I've been there about 3 years, head of department, head of computing, and I'm quite proud of what I've done there. The computing department is being pretty successful, and I teach all the way from Key Stage 3 up to Key Stage 5, so I've got A-level students who've left and gone on to do computer science at university, which is great. So I'm enjoying my time as a teacher there and head of department. At home, this is my home office. I'm a father of 2 teenagers, and yeah, so it was really when they started school and I started helping them with homework and stuff that I discovered that I might actually quite like this teaching lark. So I retrained as a teacher. I've not always been a teacher. I retrained. I was age 45, I think. So there's hope for everyone. If they don't like their current career, anyone can change career midlife. I'm living proof. So I worked in IT for 28 years or thereabouts. I did a computer science degree back at Sheffield University in the 80s. Wow. Back in the 80s, nobody had computers at home. Very few of us did. I go back. I'm one of the first graduates of the BBC Computer Literacy Project. So if you've heard of the BBC Micro and all of that, I had one of those at home. So it's because of that BBC Computer Literacy Project in the 80s that I got into computers and ended up doing a computer science degree. So after graduating, I worked in various roles in IT for 28 years, starting as a graduate trainee on mainframes. And so I was actually loading tapes. If you've seen those reel-to-reel tapes on the old science fiction movies, so loading tapes and loading paper on printers. All of that stuff. And then I ended up doing things like security admin and ended up in the information security world and sort of got a job as a consultant, information security consultant, and traveled the world with it. I say travel the world. I had a few trips to America and that was about it. But yeah, that was fun for a while. And like I say, reached my mid-40s and thought, I want to do something else now. So I kind of was between contracts. And
people normally do it the other way around, Alan. They're normally in teaching, get to 45 and say,
I've had enough
I think
of
I'll
this.
Do something else now.
No. So yeah, I'd been thinking about teaching for a while, like I say, helping my kids with their homework and stuff. And I thought, this is quite fun. How hard can it be?
I've got to ask this. Did you think this looks easy? When you thought, I might be a teacher, not knowing much about it, did you think, anyone can do that?
I like to think I went in with my eyes open. I don't think I ever thought it was easy because I did already know a few teachers. Some of my friends, a couple of my friends are teachers, one primary, one secondary, and I know how hard they work. And so I did go in with my eyes open, thinking this isn't going to be easy, but it's a challenge. Let's give it a good go. So I found that I liked it. Yeah, I did have a tough few years at first, but now I'm in the right school. Things are going great. So, yeah,
And it's
that's
fair to
pretty much
say
my.
that, I mean, our wider audience beyond teachers probably won't appreciate this. And you'll probably blush a little bit when I say this, but I think it's fair to say in the computer science teaching community, you're quite well known in a sense. I mean, you wear quite a few hats. I mean, you're a CAS master teacher, and we can talk about that another time. You do work for the National Centre of Computing Education, and again, we can talk about that sometime. And you're quite prolific on the sort of forums and CAS community and places like that. So anyone that's teaching computer science kind of knows Alan Harrison. Yeah?
It's kind of you to say, yeah. I have sort of thrown myself into it. I did. I don't like to do anything half-hearted. So when I changed career into teaching, I kind of went, "Oh right, what can I do? How can I get really involved with this?" And so my PGCE tutor. Big shout out to Manchester Metropolitan University and Ellie Overland, who tutored me to be a teacher of computing. So she runs the Computing at School CAS hub, as it was called a hub. It's now a community of practice in South Manchester, and I started attending that and throw myself into all of that, and now I co-lead that community of practice with Ellie. So through that, through CAS I did meet a lot of people, learn a lot of stuff. Big shout out to Carl Simmons at Edge Hill, who ran lots of Saturday training as well. And so I did throw myself into all of the extracurricular CPD that I could do and go to the CAS conferences in Birmingham and so on. So through that, I did meet a lot of people.
Teachers are going to probably, not be happy with me saying this, but sort of that old adage that we give the kids, oh, you only get out what you put in, the more you put in, the more you'll get out. I kind of feel that that's true of the teaching side of it as well. It is hard work and it is all consuming, but I also find the more you give to it, the more rewarding it can be. Am I just fooling myself?
No, I think that's true. I agree. So go on, Alan.
Yeah. Sorry, Craig. Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think what's important is, when I first started teaching, I was like all new teachers, like a rabbit in the headlights. What on earth have I got myself into? And there's so much to learn. It's there's parallels with teaching the kids. The cognitive overload in your first few years of teaching is just frightening. How much you have to just get used to doing and thinking and managing. But I think doing the extra CPD and meeting people and talking to people through CAS has helped me, get over that hurdle and get to being a confident classroom practitioner a bit quicker than if I hadn't done all of that. So yeah, I think that's all very very true.
Definitely. Yeah, so good shout out to CAS and the NCCE and people that are doing good work out there. Absolutely. So, Alan, I think without further ado, we probably should talk about what you're actually here for, which is to talk about your new book and to a large extent really promote your new book, because at Craig and Dave, we think that this book is amazing, and we were fortunate to be able to make a very small contribution to this in terms of a bit of proofreading and a few suggestions here and there. But this is fantastic. Let me just say that. And I'm slightly annoyed that my copy hasn't arrived yet, because I don't have a lot of time for reading. It sounds terrible to say because I'm too busy making resources most of the time. But I really want to read this from cover to cover, because the bit that I have sort of proofread and been a little bit a part of, I just find it fascinating. I just want to read the whole lot. So I highly recommend this book. Anyway, you take it away. What's this all about?
Oh,
And
that's
also,
very
how
kind.
did you have enough? Also, how did you have enough time to even write this, given
How
everything
did
else
I?
you just told us you've done?
No, I know. It's I often wonder. So a lot of it was last summer, and it's been in me for a little while. This book, and if I start with kind of why, I think the main thing is, so, like you say, I've been involved with CAS and online forums, Facebook and Twitter and so on, talking to computing teachers for, my entire short teaching career so far. And what's come across is that there's kind of there was a gap in the market for this book, because I think there's a limited understanding in the teaching community of computing, of the pedagogy of computer science. And by that, I mean the how to teach. And if I give you an example, often on particularly Facebook, in the groups for computer science, there's a lot of teachers who are looking for help, and that's fine. But often the questions are phrased something like, do you have a lesson on client server versus peer-to-peer, because my kids just aren't getting it? And what they mean is, do you have a magic PowerPoint that's going to get the knowledge into the children's heads? And so what I wanted to get across with the book was I wanted to help upskill computer science teachers. It's particularly aimed at GCSE computer science teaching, but it'll help with all computing key stages, really. But I wanted to help with the subject knowledge and a more deeper understanding of the subject knowledge. And that's why a lot of the book has a lot of the history of each topic in it. But I wanted to talk about the pedagogy, the how to teach as well. And so there's a huge amount of discussion of things like what order to teach things in, and misconceptions, which is a big topic that I really wanted to tackle with the book. And so it was because of these questions that I kept getting and trying to answer in Facebook and on Twitter, like, do you have a lesson that they're not getting the fetch, decode, execute cycle when I tried to teach it? So do you have a magic lesson on it? And there's another CAS master teacher that's a friend of mine called Andy Colley, who runs a podcast, records a podcast called Learning Dust, which I highly recommend. And the title of the podcast, Learning Dust, comes from a phrase that he heard in CPD once, and it was about educational technology, and it was the phrase, magic learning dust doesn't fall out of the bottom of an iPad. And I think it's good to remember, magic learning dust doesn't fall out of a PowerPoint presentation. We are teachers and we have to teach it. And I'm a firm believer in something I think Richard Feynman said, that you don't truly understand something unless you've taught it. Well, if you flip that, you can't teach it unless you truly understand it yourself. And I think there's far too many teachers, most of whom will admit that they don't know computer science in enough depth to really teach it well. And so what I want to get across with the book is this, if we the teachers understand it really, really well, and we understand it well enough to explain it, then we will be able to teach it really, really well. And so I'm trying to get across with the book, if you understand the subject in great depth and you understand some of the pedagogy, then you'll become a better teacher. So that's where it came from, and it's sort of been burning in me because of all of those questions in Facebook and questions on Twitter. Have you got a magic lesson on this? And so I thought, well, instead of keep answering that question on Facebook every 5 minutes, I think I'll write a book about it. So so that's the why. But I didn't answer your question, Craig, about how did I get time to do this. So that's a good question.
I didn't think you had an answer for that then. There was that pause where I thought, Alan doesn't know where he's found the time.
I don't know.
Because
Where
teachers
did I get
seem
the
to
time?
make 30 hours in a single day.
I will say this. So a big shout out to my school, William Humes Grammar School, which is a United Learning Academy, for not giving me excessive workload or managing workload effectively. And there are teachers watching this undoubtedly that are going, I couldn't possibly. I mean, I'm up all night marking. And so one reason why I've got time to write the book is I'm not up all night marking. And so if you work in a school where that's the policy, yeah, you're going to struggle to find time for other stuff. So hopefully, schools are getting more enlightened about workload these days, and they're not making the teachers stay up all night marking. But
it effectively makes you, sorry to interrupt, it effectively makes you a better teacher as well, doesn't it? Because I'm not saying every teacher should write a book, clearly, but because you've been given the time to do this and you had the time to write this, you are now a better teacher because of it. I know I'm a much better teacher since starting Craig and Dave due to the number of hours that I've put into creating resources, thinking about the learning journey. Why am I making this resource? It's that if you can free up teachers, we can become better teachers.
I was going to say, Craig, schools are making a big mistake, and one of the initiatives that was launched in a school that I taught at a few years ago was to give every teacher a period on their timetable. And it wasn't enough time, but it was a gesture in the right direction, a period on their timetable that was dedicated to their own professional development. And I don't mean a period because you're a head of department or anything like that. I mean, or PPA. I don't mean that, not planning, preparation and assessment. What I mean is an additional period on top of all of that, which was dedicated just to you having time to do what you needed to do to advance yourself as a teacher, whether that was subject knowledge development, whether it was going to observe other teachers, or whatever it was, you could use that time. And I think schools are making a big mistake by not investing in teachers in that way, because at university, this is custom and practice. You do lecturing, of course you do, but actually quite a bit of your time is spent on research and actually learning your subjects to a greater depth. And schools need to do this. Putting a teacher in a classroom for as many hours as you possibly can is counterproductive. If you want the best out of the students, then you need teachers that are very confident with what they're doing. And it's so refreshing, Alan, to hear that you're working at a school that values you having time to write a book like this.
Yeah, very much so. Absolutely. You mentioned PPA, and so often PPA is just taking up marking or creating resources for the next lesson or standing over a photocopier, which is quite sad. So yes, it would be great if we could do more of the planning and the preparation, which could include, upskilling yourself and learning the latest pedagogy for your subject. So I did find, because I wasn't marking, I did have to use, of course, evenings and weekends and stuff. And so thank you very much to my family for for forgiving me for spending that time. But you touched on something else, Dave, becoming a better teacher. And I do believe that I know so much more, having researched and written this book about the subject, than I did before. So hopefully reading it will help people in that respect as well.
Definitely. I feel it's quiz time, Alan. It's quiz time. I think we need to have a look at the cover of this book, and I think we need to challenge each other. You know all the answers, Alan, so you just need to referee. But we need to challenge ourselves in, who are these line drawings and why are they significant on Alan's book? So, Craig, how do you want to work this?
Well, I was looking at that cover when you sent it to me earlier, and I promise you'll not Google it. I reckon I definitely know 3. I can have a stab at a 4th, and I don't know the 5th. So how about you? I could definitely do 3, maybe 4.
I'm putting myself out there. I'm going 5 out of 5.
Oh, get out! Right, okay, I'll do mine. Go on.
This would be interesting. So I'll put you out of your misery because the last one isn't meant to be someone famous. I'm sorry. It's just,
I know who this is.
Well, in that case,
well, that's interesting if that is somebody famous, because that's news to me, because the last one is just supposed to represent self-driving cars as the cutting edge of technology.
well, that's the one where I thought I knew.
Oh,
That's
that's
the one
interesting.
I'm going to have a stab at. I'll tell you what then. So I've obviously got Ada in the top left. Ada, that famous sideways portrait profile. I think that top one, I'm not going to be able to pronounce the surname correctly. It's Al someone. It's the guy who came up with an
Al-Khwarizmi.
Al-Khwarizmi. Yeah. So in the book, I do talk about a couple of times the Islamic House of Wisdom in Baghdad, in 10th century Baghdad, because it's fascinating to me that we know, as computer science teachers, we know all about Ada Lovelace, correct, who was Charles Babbage's companion, and we know all about Alan Turing and the other guy that's on that picture, which we'll come to in a moment, but we don't often talk about the guy whose name gave us the word algorithm, which is Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi, I believe, and I'm sorry to any Arabic speakers if I got that wrong. But also at the Islamic House of Wisdom was a guy called Al-Kindi, who was really one of the earliest cryptographers or cryptanalysts even. So he was cracking codes back in the 10th century. So yeah, fascinating period in history that we overlook too much. So that's Al-Khwarizmi at the top right. And one thing you haven't mentioned is how the picture's constructed. So I saw some art really called single line drawing art, which is fascinating. You can Google some examples of it later. And I love this idea of one line drawing the whole picture, and that's what's happened there. So I didn't actually draw the whole thing myself. I mocked it up and the artist did it for me. So it's a single line that draws Al-Khwarizmi and then goes on to draw Ada and then moves on to the guy on the right. So any more guesses for who's that on the right?
Has to be Bill Gates, I'm guessing.
No.
The word.
No. There's a clue on the screen. The word W is important.
That's what I thought the W was. I thought it was referring. Oh, go on.
When I saw the W, I instantly thought it was like Microsoft Word and therefore Bill Gates. But when I saw he wasn't wearing glasses, I thought, because normally the classic view of Bill Gates, he's wearing glasses, right? Yeah. So I'm going for Tim Berners-Lee showing off his first website, because that's what the W is, www.
Yeah. If you look at the book, which of course you don't have, so I can find this picture in my printed copy of the book because I don't have it ready on the screen, but yeah, it's that picture that hopefully you can see there. So it's that famous picture of Tim Berners-Lee with the first.
I should have got that because that is a pretty famous photo, that actual one.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know who the one in the bottom left was, so I'll leave that for now. And you've told me the bottom right was just generic, but I actually thought the bottom right was Norman someone, the guy who's he's basically credited for creating the first self-driving car, and it's like way back, it's like 1950, maybe even earlier, 1940. Right. So that's who I thought that was. But I'm out now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've told you that bottom right is just actually from a stock photo of a self-driving car, because it's just meant to represent cutting edge technology. So we're left with bottom left,
I think,
and I have the original.
I think before you spoil this, Alan, give me a moment in the sun. Give me a moment to shine. I think. Well, let's start with the bottom right first. My views on it, because, like I say, I thought I could do 5 out of 5, but like you say, I didn't recognize that as anybody famous at all. And I thought maybe that's what it is. It is just a random woman. And I thought a woman's interesting because you've got, 3 women and 2 men. And, we often think that women are underrepresented in computer science, and they may well be in the classrooms, but actually in computer science generally, they're very much, leading the field. And with that line drawing, as you say, going from the random woman on the right-hand side in the self-driving car all the way back, I saw that as partly a step back in time through the ages of computer science. I saw it partly as we're all connected. And that's quite clever, because obviously networking and everything, you know, we're all connected, a big world, small world kind of thing. And that this is the bit that I thought was clever, and maybe I've overthought this. It's an abstraction. When you draw people as a line drawing like that, it's not real. It looks kind of real. You recognize them as famous people, but that's not a photograph, for example. It's not the real person. And so it's like, oh, we're all connected in this abstracted way. And do you know what that ultimately is what computer science is about? It's about levels of abstraction. And coming back to what Craig was, and you were talking about a moment ago, with this idea of the more you learn, the more confident you feel to teach a subject, but also the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, and things that you thought you understood, suddenly you realize you didn't understand at all, because it was so abstracted from the reality that it gave its own false impression of truth. And I find this all the time. I'm sometimes nervous, actually, of learning a little bit more, even though I'm excited by it, because I just know that when I learn something more, I'm going to actually know less for a short period of time, which is really, really interesting. So I was looking at this cover and I was thinking, well, that's clever. That's clever, because that is an abstraction of kind of the history of computer science over time. That's what I thought that was.
Absolutely. So the single line drawing everybody, it represents two things. It is the ultimate abstraction is drawing a picture with one line, you know. So how can I simplify this picture? Well, why not do the whole thing with one single continuous line? And when I saw this artwork, I thought, oh, that's what I've got to do for the cover. So well done, Dave. That's right. It's an abstraction, and it's also connecting. And it's kind of the idea that, you know, was it Isaac Newton said, I've got where I am by standing on the shoulders of giants. I mean, we wouldn't have self-driving cars if it wasn't for, you know, all of those things that went before. Self-driving cars just being some representation of cutting edge technology.
And I think
so
I think the woman, just to finish,
come
Alan,
on, who's the person in the left?
Who is it?
I think that's Katie Bowman, who was responsible for photographing the first black hole.
Absolutely. Which is in the book, which takes me neatly, if you want me to show you inside the book, we can go neatly to that actual photo there. So little claim to fame, because we need permission to use various photos, even derivative works from photos. The fact that Dr. Katie Bowman put this on her Twitter feed in 2019 doesn't make it public domain. So I actually emailed Dr. Katie Bowman, who by the time I emailed her earlier this year, she was working at Caltech. She was working at MIT when she worked on the Event Horizon Telescope, and that's the story there. So I emailed her and I got a reply. I've got an email saying, good luck with the book, from Dr. Katie Bowman. So that was really nice. And yes, permission to use the picture. So here it is. So she tweeted this out. And I love this picture, and I used it in the book. I was desperate to get permission to use it in the book because it's the moment of discovery. It's got everything. It's got, obviously, she's on a MacBook there, and there's the image appearing. It's hard to see in this small, low resolution photo, but the image of a black hole, and this is the oh my goodness moment. I've discovered a black hole, or I've made an image of a black hole for the first time. But on the right hand side, it is actually Python code. It's the matplotlib library. So the Event Horizon Telescope, for those that don't remember the story, was basically a computational telescope. It took a load of images from many telescopes around the world and used computation to come to a single image. and I included it in the book, and you can see some of the story here, because it's got everything. It's got algorithms. It's got code. It's got the joy of discovery. And so what you'll find in the book is at the start of each chapter a story like this from some moment in history of computer science. And so I like to start each chapter with some kind of story like this.
Nice. It's lovely. Well, in the next video, we're going to be taking I think a deeper look at a particular chapter from the book. So I think this is probably a fairly decent point to wrap the first video up. But before we go, a couple of quick things. We want to ask you what's next, and then we'll finish with letting people know where they can buy this book. But yeah, so I mean, briefly before we finish, then, so what's next for you then, Alan? I mean, you've done it all, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, thanks to you guys, actually, because we've been talking about this book, that book,
Yeah.
for probably about a year now. I think we had a chat about this book, and you agreed to help with some of the proofreading ages ago, and then we were talking a few months ago, weren't we, about how this is great for teachers, but wouldn't it be great if there was something we could give to our students? And so thanks to you guys, I've now been commissioned by John Catt Educational, the publishers, to write a student companion. So the working title is obviously How to Learn Computer Science. And so that's what I'm doing this summer. And so looking forward to taking the subject knowledge stuff out of here, which is those stories like the Event Horizon Telescope story and loads of other stuff, John von Neumann and all of that, and Ada Lovelace, the story of her crazy and sadly short life. That was one of the chapters. All of that stuff. I'll keep all of the I guess cultural capital in the book, and instead of teacher stuff, which you'll hear about next video, there'll be lots of sort of student relevant stuff, study skills and so on. So it will be how to learn computer science, and that should be out later this year. So I'm working on that. Like I say, I still do do my CAS meetings and still do some stuff for the NCCE. So yeah, lots.
Oh, hang
on.
I just remembered, Alan. Before I do where to buy the book, it's worth mentioning no book these days is any good without an accompanying website.
Yeah. So yeah, how to teach computer science.
That quickly.
Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, how to teach computer science, httcs.online. And so you can see extracts from the book and all the links. There's footnotes everywhere, but all the links that are in the book are available on that website, so you can find them. And my blog is there as well. If you look for the word blog in the menu, I'm always writing about pedagogy of computer science on my blog. So
Alan, fascinating book. Every teacher wants to buy it. Where can they get it? That's the important bit. So where can you get it?
Yeah, so the publisher is John Catt Educational, and so johncattbookshop.com is where you can get it, or of course on Amazon. So if you go on Amazon today at time of recording, it will probably say quite a long delivery date, but I think that's just a temporary glitch and will be solved in the next few days. So it's available at Amazon, at John Catt Bookshop, and lots of online bookshops like Blackwell's and Books, etc. and so on. But all the links are on either johncattbookshop.com or amazon.co.uk.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining us today then, Alan. So we're going to wrap it up there. And as Craig said at the beginning, this is a 3-part series. So we're going to be back with part 2, where we're going to take a deeper dive into the book. If you're interested in the book and want to know more, Alan's going to take us on a deeper dive in one of the chapters in the book. So we'll look forward to that.
Brilliant. See you all next week. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.